Scientific notation with small numbers. So you're going to learn how to convert numbers from standard notation to scientific notation. And to remind you, what is scientific notation? It's a way of writing very large or very small numbers that have many zeros, like this 45 million or this tiny number. Today we're going to be focusing on these tiny numbers like this that have lots of zeros there. We're going to focus on small numbers. So what happens when we divide by 10? Well, we have 40 divided by 10. We know that's 4. But what's really happening is we have a decimal right here. And when we divide by 10, we move that decimal one time to the left. Just like before, when we multiply by 10, we move the decimal to the right. Now when we're dividing by 10, we move it to the left. And so 40 divided by 10 is 4.0. But we don't write the decimal in the zero if we don't have to. And 400 divided by 100 is 4, but what we really have is 400 decimal point divided by 100, and we're moving that decimal point 2 times to the left when we're divided by 100. So each power of 10 we divide by, we move the decimal to the left. So standard to scientific notation. Here's our standard notation number, 0.0014. That's tenths, hundredths, thousands, tenths. That's 1,400 thousandths. And we still have to write a number between 1 and 10 using a decimal. And the decimal, well, it has to go in this spot right here. That's 1.4. Because if I put it in another place, say I put the decimal here, 14. Well, 14 is bigger than 10, and that's not going to work. And if I put the decimal, even if I put it here, 0.14 or 14 hundredths, that's smaller than 1. So the only place I can put it there is 1.4. That's the only time that it's between 1 and 10. And then I have to count the spaces to the left end. So if I put the decimal right here, I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left. I have to move that decimal. And so that's 1.4 times 10 to the negative fourth. This is the number in scientific notation. And so scientific to standard notation, if I start with 1.4 times 10 to the negative fourth, super easy. That's our scientific notation. But what this means is 1.4 divided by, what, 10,000. Because 10 to the fourth right here is the same thing as 10,000. And if I divide by 10,000, that means I move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left. And here's our standard notation. The exponent, and when I say the exponent, I'm talking about this thing right here. That exponent is telling you how many times to move the decimal to the left. To review, from standard to scientific notation, you create a number between 1 and 10 with a decimal, and that number gets multiplied by 10 with an exponent to describe the number of times you have to move the decimal. For example, we have this 0.0024. Well, I have to put my decimal right there. That's the only time I have a number between 1 and 10. So there's that 2.4 part right there, times 10. All right, that's always times 10. And then I have to move the decimal, how many times? Oops. So as I have 2.4, I have to move it 3 times to the left. And it's 1, 2, 3 times to the left. So that's where I get the negative 3 from. That is scientific notation. And continued here from scientific to standard notation, we see that the exponent tells us how many times to move the decimal. It does not tell us how many zeros we have. That's a common mistake. For example, we have this 5.1 times 10 to the negative fifth. This negative 5 tells me I have to move the decimal 5 times to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Decimal, fill it in the rest with zeros, and that's where I get this standard notation version. And by the way, as a quick reminder, had this 5 been a positive, I would be moving the decimal to the right instead of the left. So there you go, scientific notation.